Welcome to Straight Talk and Retirement, your no-hype source for financial advice and making informed choices about your retirement planning. Get on the phone to talk today at 314-931-5877 or text your question to 84126.
The opinions voiced in this show are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, and financial advisor or tax advisor prior to investing. Securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advice offered through Private Advisor Group, a registered investment advisor. Private Advisor Group and JBL Financial Services, Inc. are separate entities from LPL Financial.
Now, here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Well, hello, St. Louis, and welcome to Straight Talk on Retirement. You're live and local, St. Louis's favorite financial call-in show. I'm Jeff Lapidus, president of JBL Financial Services. Our office is located in beautiful, slightly chilly, downtown Olivet, Missouri. Slightly.
It's 25 degrees.
Well, I'm sorry. As you can tell, I'm joined by my very favorite co-star, Nanook of the North, better known as Aaron Lapidus, my daughter, who also is a fee-based financial planner and wealth manager.
We help our clients make smart choices about their money. The way we do that is by designing a game plan, a written step-by-step strategy, a real game plan that has several goals in mind.
First is to preserve, protect, and prudently grow the assets our clients have taken their entire lifetimes to accumulate. Second is to deliver a reliable stream of income, one that they can count on so they can do all the things they like to do during retirement.
And third is cost-effectively addressing their health care needs, like helping individuals enroll in Medicare and choosing the right plan to supplement their medical coverage.
And then when they're done enjoying their assets during their lifetime, we show them how to pass them on to the people they love, whether it's their spouses or children, grandchildren, churches, or charities, whoever it might be, with Uncle Sam or the tax courts taking a big bite out of their money. And as their wealth managers, Aaron and I watch their money every single day to make sure they're staying on track. And that's why they call us the retirement coaches. Babe, good morning.
Good morn.
It's another wonderful day in the neighborhood. It's fun for 2 hours with all of you folks. You know that our phone lines are open. We're live and local. We'd love to hear from you. 931-5877 or 84126 from the usually hot, and we hope it's going to be hot this morning, text line. We know you have a lot of things on your mind. What's more important is we get them answered. So, again, we'd love to hear from you. A little variation this morning. What can I tell you? It's good when you catch yourself in mid-sentence. What can I say?
And I also like how you didn't give the non-existent mobile number out any longer either. It's nice improvements.
Well, I haven't been hearing from people, so I guess it's just one of those deals.
Nice.
But in either case, we do want to remind everybody that all of our clients are folks that are like you. They're our listeners. They're over 55. They would like to retire, or they're already retired. As I mentioned, we create a game plan for them with the goals of having a fun, financially secure, and hopefully less worrisome retirement. But, the markets, they're not cooperating this week or the last couple of weeks.
Another sad week in the markets.
Yeah, it is. I was looking up some statistics this morning, and I noticed that, the S&P 500 is down about 9%. Mm-hmm. The NASDAQ is down about 14%. Oh! Ouch, painful. Diversified portfolios, which include bonds, well, guess what? Bond market's down 3% as well. So when everything is down, we're not. Right?
Never. We know.
We're never down. And the bottom line is that it's a good time to retire. It's a good time to be alive, and it's a good time to be American, which is just wonderful. There are always things out there that are unsettling for the markets, and that's okay. And we go through these phases. But the cool part is we know that there's always sunshine over the horizon.
That's right. We've talked about this in the past, but if we look over any 20-year period, the market's always up and to the right. and usually these corrections are much shorter lived than an overall bull market run, where we're seeing appreciation in assets over time. So although, and we've been chatting with clients about this, although this part of investing is uncomfortable, it's the price that we pay for most people, incredible returns that we've seen over the last several years, since we've seen it almost doubling in the size of each of the indexes.
Yeah, which is fun, and hopefully you're participating and you're continuing to participate in doing that, and we're certainly going to be ones to encourage you to do so, which is great. Again, I was going to say that we do want to remind everybody there's lots of ways that you can keep in touch with us during the week.
That's right, and the best way to do that is to log on to our website, jblfinancial.com. That's jblfinancial.com. In the lower left-hand side of the screen, a little pop-up box will appear that says Sign Up. You can access our monthly newsletter that way by sending us your email address, phone number, and year of birth. Or in the upper right-hand corner, you can click on Contact Us, and several people have utilized this function, not just during the show to ask us questions. They come directly to my email, or to request a coaching session, be it a financial coaching session or a healthcare coaching session.
Yes, and Erin and her staff do keep the last 6 to 8 months of those archived for your viewing, printing, or downloading convenience. But you also can keep up with us on social media, right?
That's right. You can follow us on Facebook, JBL Financial, or you can follow us.
And friend us, by the way, right? Friend us.
Well, you can friend us too. Or you can follow us on Twitter, JBL Financial as well. Through our social media platforms, we do add articles about retirement planning, financial planning, updates about the market, but we also use those platforms for fun things going on around the St. Louis metro area, or fun ideas for individuals that are retired, tips and tricks, things like that. And we're always open to suggestions, so you're more than welcome to message us through those platforms to let us know things that you would like to see.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Again, go to our website, jblfinancial.com, click on the Coach's Corner newsletter icon, or you'll see every page if you have to view those as well.
And you know what?
We have a lot of, yeah, babe.
I have, for all of our early listeners this morning, I have the March newsletter already ready to go.
Woohoo!
So we could give an early preview of what our newsletter is going to look like for the month of March.
Oh, so you mean you left the February one at home? I dig it. I understand.
Well, amazingly enough, I have the technology just as everyone else does. When they log on to our website, jblfinancial.com, under the newsletter section, you can see the last 12 months of our newsletters, and you can also see the upcoming newsletter.
Well, that's wonderful. So we know every newsletter includes 4 specific topics.
Yes.
Let's not go into them this month, but at least let's highlight them.
Sure. So the first article is very timely, as we try to be. Inflation cuts into wage gains. So this is an infographic. We like to use that on the cover of our newsletter. And it really is just a graphic showing wage growth versus real wage growth, which incorporates inflation. And there's a little bit of a bifurcation there. However, this infographic only goes to December of 2021, whereas we know that the beginning of the year, in addition to the rocky market and the rising inflation, we've seen wage growth as well, pretty rapid wage growth. So those numbers could change. We'll probably have updates on that down the line, but it's a nice topic. We also have our second article, which is a lengthy one. It's a little more technical. ETFs are gaining on mutual funds. Here's why. So this is the different types of investing, the different investment vehicles that you can utilize in your portfolio. And oftentimes we see transitions from passive investing, like ETFs and index funds, to active investing, like mutual funds, and vice versa, just like we see transitions in the market from the growth side, the tech side of the market, to the value side of the market. So there's rotation in many ways when it comes to investing.
And I would like to say that, in our own investing model that we utilize, we think that both styles certainly have a place. And
Sure.
what we like to do is incorporate both of those into our portfolios. Just as a technical issue here, ETF means exchange-traded funds. And these are basically index funds that trade like stocks, which means they trade during the day, as compared to mutual funds, which only trade at the end of the day.
And for refreshers, the article does go through the differences between mutual funds, between ETFs, and it also includes some index fund definitions as well. So it's nice to get a technical perspective, but it's written in English, as my dad likes to say.
Beautiful. What's article number 3?
Key retirement and tax numbers for 2022, and this is very timely for our show today because we're again going to be chatting about some tax efficiencies that we've come across from some of our clients and listeners over the last week.
Yes. And, it's interesting because all of our decision-making is tied to taxes. I mean, literally just about every decision that we make has to be tied to taxes. And as financial planners, it's important to do that. And I think today what we want to do is talk not a little bit about how to maybe better utilize the rules, but also how we can talk about tax effectiveness across family units, not just really just singling out and really just looking at yourself only.
And then the final article is when buying is easy, paying later can be a problem. And so this is an article that talks about the different types of buy now, pay later loans that you can receive, like a layaway type of loan. And we included this article because I noticed that the media had been talking quite a bit about the rising amount of consumer debt over the last year. As the pandemic winded down, it seemed like consumer debt started to rise. But if we look behind those numbers, because usually that's considered something not as positive about the economy when we see rising consumer debt. But something that's been overlooked is that Americans are still able to pay off those loans at a remarkably fast pace. So that means the revolving debt that exists for most Americans is being paid off relatively quickly, and a lot of that consumer debt is being reflected in the fact that the housing market is so hot, people are trying to snap up loans before we see interest rates begin to rise.
Yep. And again, we do call it the Coach's Corner, easy to access. To our website, jblfinancial.com. And I think what's fun about our newsletter is that, as you can tell, it's really multi-generational. And many of our clients, and we certainly encourage them, even as a way to introduce us to them, so that their kids know, hey, Mom and Dad have an advisor, or Grandma and Grandpa have an advisor, is by subscribing to our monthly newsletter. So that's a lot of fun, and we think it can be helpful all across the path, which is great. Again, as we begin our program today, our phone lines are open. We'd love to hear from you, 931-5877 or 84126 from the text line. So, babe, do we start our program, or do we have some text?
Let's get going.
Let's get going. Great. Well, I was going to say, I know that I received a couple of emails. They managed to sneak under Aaron's radar. That were asking, hey, are you going to talk about rock stars? And, we love to talk about rock stars because most of our clients truly are rock stars. And we don't mean they have great singing voices, but we do mean is that their portfolios typically sing very loud. And the way that we define that is that they have either more capital or more income or a combination of both to meet their needs. So they're basically, and many of them are able to move into what we think of more of a safety zone. The metric that Aaron and I use in terms of how much can I withdraw from my portfolio and maintain it over a long period of time is we use what we call the prudent advisor rule, which is always subject to question. of 4%. We found that over long periods of time, maintaining that type of withdrawal rate is something that we can do over long periods and at the same time maintain clients' capital. So as people's portfolio grow, and if they're withdrawing 4% or less, what happens is we think they get deeper and deeper into the safety zone. So
that's right, because although client, if you've been invested in the market over the last several years, you've probably seen some asset growth. If you happen to be retired, that usually doesn't mean you start spending more money, but it does mean that the 4% that you started out with 3-4 years ago may be less or significantly less than 4% now based on the growth of your assets and the fact that you've been a disciplined retiree and only pulling that 4% annually. So you're able to not only bank the gains that you're not pulling from your investments, but those become part of that. I like to describe it as like a boulder that's rolling down the hill. It just keeps getting larger and picking up more debris as it goes. So you have, like they say, big money makes bigger money.
Yeah, the more the merrier, right?
Exactly.
Or the rich people get richer because they have more to start with.
Right.
And that's really what the truth is. So let's do a little ditty here. I'm not going to sing that either. About Jack
We
and
all
Diane.
thank you.
You're welcome. Jack's 64. He currently is working for the largest aerospace manufacturing firm, one of those in the world, whose headquarters used to be here, but we know they moved to Seattle, Washington. Diane is 62, his wife, and she's a nurse. She works with the cardiac care patients at one of our larger hospital systems south on South Kings Highway. We're not allowed to use names. Sorry about that.
That was like as possibly specific as you could ever get without mentioning an actual name. That was nice work.
Well, thank you, babe. I mean, our compliance people don't know where Kings Highway is, so we're in good shape.
Nice.
Jack wants to retire in 2 years and 4 months, really specific, when he becomes eligible for his Social Security benefits and for Medicare. That's really a key point for him. Diane's undecided because she really enjoys the work that she does, and she wants to work for another 3 years.
At least.
They've been fabulous savers. What's neat for them is that their children are grown, they're living independently, and they're all out of school. So they are true empty nesters. And if they're lucky, their kids are staying out of their financial nest as well.
Oh, you know what? We have a correction to make for Jack's employer, the largest aerospace manufacturing firm in the country, is actually headquartered in Chicago.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
The texters, they provide the info. We want to disseminate it.
Okay, so we want to thank that texter so much because now we know that the regulators, when they listen to this, they know it's really just...
They know we have no idea what we're talking about. Perfect.
Exactly. So let's talk a little bit. There's some numbers in this, but I think everybody will appreciate these. Let's talk a little bit about their assets. They do currently have non-retirement assets, or we call those brokerage account, of about $220,000. Jack has almost $1 million in his 401k. It's been a great saver, and obviously his employer, now located in Chicago, has also been investing in this plan as well. He's got a pension with them, which is worth about $2,400 a month, and a lump sum is about $400,000.
So that'll definitely be something to consider down the road if we're going to be looking at the pension versus the lump sum option available.
Yes, and there are a lot of factors that are involved in that particular decision, and we may have a chance to look at those this morning. Diane does have a 403b/401k of almost $200,000, and also they have Roth IRAs about $36,000. So the total assets that are available for them for retirement planning purposes right now is running at about $1.8 million. So, they've created a very nice nest egg.
Yes.
More than many, but not as much as few folks, which is great. And, the first thing that we like to do with our clients and prospective clients is sit down and really talk about the numbers. how much cash flow does it take for you to maintain the lifestyle that you have today? Because we like to think that you're doing the same things and you need the same cash flow the day after you retire as the day before.
That's right. So when we chatted with Jack and Diane, they determined that they're spending about $8,000 a month. But the important thing that we need to do is gross that up for taxes, because as prudent savers, Jack and Diane were living below their gross income and living on the net, so living within their means. But in retirement, we need to factor taxes back in, as the majority of Jack and Diane's assets are in pre-tax accounts, which means as we withdraw money that's going to be taxable.
Yeah, so setting aside Jack's pension, because that's a decision that has to be made, and a discussion we're going to have with them. His Social Security is going to run about $2,850 a month. Hers is going to be a little bit less at about $2,000 a month, so that we know that if they need $9,600,
which is the $8,000 grossed up by 20% for taxes.
Right. That their shortage each month is, when they do decide to elect their Social Security benefits, is going to be running at about $4,750 per month. And so over a 12-month period, that's about $57,000. And to determine how much capital, or as I like to call it, the milk money that they really need, how much of that capital base do we need to draw from to, at a 4% rate, to generate this income, they would need about $1.425 million.
Well, that is really cool.
Which is cool. So we know that in talking to Jack and Diane, they have $1.8 million, so they're certainly going to be drawing less than 4% to make their life work. And so, woo-hoo.
Well, the even cooler part about this is we completely excluded Jack's pension amount of the $2,400 or the lump sum from this calculation. So that means even if we set aside Jack's pension, they would still be in great shape.
Right, and you may have noticed that their income is, some folks may say, hey, that's high, $8,000 a month. What do you need $8,000 for? Well, one of the obligations that they still have not fully completed at this point is that they do have a primary mortgage. It was larger, but now it's been paid down to about $66,000, and the payment is about $1,000 per month without taxes or insurance.
So a question. Right, so a question
right?
Absolutely. So a question they had is, should we wait till retirement and pay it off, or do something right now?
Excuse me. So if they decide not to retire at this moment, which is certainly an option that they have available to them, one thing that they might consider, understanding that they really have enough milk money, capital, to generate the income that they need, is they might consider stopping their 401k contributions, and really that is reducing them to the size of their company match, and thereby taking that money home and using that additional after-tax income to pay off that mortgage quicker.
That's a really excellent point.
Yeah, not a bad deal. It's interesting is that, a question folks will say is, have I saved enough? Well, sometimes in a situation like Jack and Diane, and this is really not unusual, I would tell you, from what we've seen, is that sometimes folks save too much.
What?
So, well, it's true. I mean, in this case, if they were to try to pull this lump sum, as an example, they say, well, we want to just have this paid off today. Well, that $66,000, we're really going to be needing to pull out probably closer to $90,000 to make that happen. And we know that that's obviously a lot of income taxes, but it's going to make all of their income grow. And doing it now while they're still working is going to put them in significantly higher tax brackets. They could maybe be moving into the 30% bracket, whereas we know at retirement, even if they're drawing only, assuming it's all taxable, $8,000 a month, they're going to be really in a 10% federal effective tax rate. So the timing of these things is important, but what I think was kind of cool about Jack and Diane is that they do have the time, a couple of years, before they want to retire. And so maybe this is a really good option for them to consider.
Before we get to the second question, which is what about Jack's pension or lump sum, I think we should take our first break of the hour.
Sounds good to me. I'm Jeff Lapidus, the retirement coach.
I'm Erin Lapidus, the retirement coach.
Don't you dare touch that dial. We'll be right back with Straight Talk on Retirement after these messages.
Did you know that Mama's on the Hill is the official birthplace of toasted ravioli? Well, it's true, and Mama's serves the best in town. Mama's has been a mainstay on the Hill for decades. It's still a family-run restaurant, serving up great Italian food in a fun atmosphere. Open 7 days a week for lunch and dinner and located right in the heart of the Hill at Edwards and Bischoff. Mama's can do catering and has a great banquet room. Call for details. Make your reservations by calling 314-776-3100 or online at mamasonthehill.com.
Do you like antiques?
Sure do, sonny boy. I married one.
I mean antiques and collectibles like those you'd find at the Belleville Flea Market. It's the largest antique flea market in the St. Louis area, with over 600 vendors each day in the air-conditioned exposition center. And there are more collectibles and bargains outside. It's Saturday and Sunday, starting at 9 a.m. at the Belle Claire Fairgrounds in Belleville, Illinois, Route 13 and 159. For more info, call 618-233-0052 or bcfairgrounds.net. Make it an antique and collectible weekend at the Belleville Flea Market.
Drug and alcohol abuse are reaching epidemic proportions, and it's easy to hear the numbers and forget all about the person. The Salvation Army Rehab Center provides men with the chance to recover through spiritual guidance, counseling, work therapy, and life skills. You can help by shopping at the Salvation Army thrift stores or donating gently used items. Just call 314-535-0057 for free pickup or go online to satruck.org for more information.
Do you want an exciting and rewarding career in law enforcement? I'm Florissant Police Chief Tim Fagan, and we are looking for qualified candidates who have the skill and determination to succeed in the exciting profession of law enforcement. Our internationally accredited police department prides itself on keeping current on the most advanced and up-to-date training methods available. We offer excellent pay, top-notch benefits, and the longest retirement system. The Florissant Police Department provides the highest level of services to our community with an emphasis on integrity, fairness, and professionalism. Come join our team. Go to florissantmo.com to apply.
This is Erin Lapidus, the retirement coach. Wouldn't it be great to have a game plan, a real strategy, so that no matter what was going on in the stock market, the economy, or the world, you could be confident about your retirement? Wouldn't that be great? If you're within 5 years of retirement, call me today at 314-863-0008. That's 314-863-0008. Or send me an email at aaron@jblfinancial.com to arrange your free coaching session. Let's get started on your retirement game plan today.
Now back to Straight Talk on Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are Jeff and Erin Lapidus.
That's right. We're back here on the Big 550 KTRS, Talk Radio St. Louis. I love that song. School's out forever. Well, it's true. I mean, that's what most people. That's why I picked the song. I said, "School's out for summer and it's out forever." Great song by Alice Cooper. Honey, before we move on, we were, prior to our break here, we were talking about Jack and Diane, two kids living in the heartland. That,
oh no, you're about to break out in song.
I feel like saying, what can I tell you? The sun's shining, and
you're lucky the sun's shining here. Yeah, you're lucky the sun's shining here.
I understand. We're having a lot of fun, but we talked a little bit about Jack and Diane. They have about $2 million of assets. About 25%. I'd say probably 20% of that is in non-retirement assets. And their first question was, we know they were rock stars. They didn't need all that income from those assets to create the retirement income. So the question became, should I pay off my mortgage? We owe about $66,000. I was thinking, there were a whole lot of other options they had available to them. First question was, well, why don't we use some of our non-retirement assets to pay this debt off now and then continue to put money in their 401k? That certainly is one option. One thing that we would have to certainly look at is, number one, is how much of that was cash after tax. And then B, if we were in a situation where we had to sell securities, what would be the capital gains implications on those to make those sales to create that capital? And I would say thirdly, and I know, honey, we're always thinking about this, which is liquidity.
Right.
How much do they really need and want to maintain as after-tax assets? Because in our minds, at the end of the day, So you've accumulated these large amounts, at least these folks had about, almost $2 million in retirement accounts. It's not really their money until Uncle Sam gets paid taxes. So making those withdrawals and doing it on a timely basis is certainly something to consider. And again, there are lots of ways to get to where you want to go. The question becomes, is it a combination? And really, what's the timing?
And I think the timing is really important, like you mentioned before the break. Right now, Jack and Diane are both employed, earning quite a bit because they've been in their careers respectively for over 20 to 30 years. In retirement, they're going to have a lot more flexibility in terms of their tax brackets as well as how they structure their income. Right now, everyone's goal is to earn as much as they can. They're not so concerned about what tax bracket they're in. They want to earn more to bring home more, even if they're paying a little bit more in taxes. Whereas in retirement, you'll naturally be in a lower tax bracket because, as we talked about at the beginning of this segment, we're going to fund to Jack and Diane's after-tax spending pre-tax spending as opposed to their gross current income. So that should drop their income by 25 to sometimes 40%, depending upon their retirement plan contributions, their health insurance expenses, and what their actual income is. And since we know they're great savers, they've obviously been living below their means for quite some time. So we might have the opportunity to play the brackets a little bit once they're retired, meaning we can pull a certain amount from their pre-tax accounts up to the next bracket, not, if they're in the 15% bracket, not moving into the 23, to help them accelerate paying off the mortgage. Maybe we don't do it all in 1 year.
Yeah, and again, this concept of paying this obligation, getting rid of it, has various weights in people's minds. On the one side, I guess you would say on the left side of the fence, you could say, okay, I have the cash flow. I could generate the cash flow that I need to pay off this obligation. I've had it for X number of years. Why get rid of it? On the other side of the fence, there's also I would just feel more comfortable. It keeps me up at night thinking about actually having these payments and having these obligations when I'm not generating and earning income.
And also, when we look at the math of it, which it usually works out this way, paying off a debt obligation is usually less expensive than servicing the debt. So, for example, we talked about that without taxes and insurance, Jack and Diane's monthly mortgage payment is $1,000 a month. If they came to us and said, we'd like $1,000 a month to meet our mortgage obligation, we would say that they needed $300,000 of assets in order to create that 4% rate of withdrawal and give them $1,000 a month. Or they have the $66,000 obligation, which they could pay off relatively quickly. And obviously, the math works this way because paying something off only incorporates taxes versus interest.
Yeah, so life is truly an algebra problem, and we look at the algebra. We obviously always incorporate taxes into the conversation, and so in this particular case, which I think is kind of cool, we know that at the end they have enough money already today to do what they want to do when they retire in terms of accumulation of capital. We also know that they're in their highest tax brackets today. So withdrawing money from retirement accounts, doesn't make any sense because they're still working. But at the same time, that could also eventually, because these two are pretty close to Medicare age, we'd even talk about the Medicare Part B premium factor.
That's right. So pulling large chunks of money may be painful on the front end because you've bumped yourself into a higher tax bracket potentially, but they can be even more painful on what I would call the back end, which is 2 years from the date that, let's say Jack and Diane pulled that $66,000 from Jack's 401k, meaning I think, Dad, you said it would be, closer to $80,000 what we would need to pull. Well, right. If that bumps their income this year up above $175,000, married filing jointly, then they're going to bump themselves into a higher Medicare Part B premium for 1 year. So not only are they paying taxes on the $66,000, they're paying an additional tax, but it's not coming for 2 years. So that's something else that we would want to consider planning for, which is how much are we going to pull in order to help them pay off this obligation if that's something that's important to them. And we want to not only consider tax brackets, but we also want to consider the Medicare Part B income thresholds. So either we're factoring in the fact that they'll be paying more in Medicare Part B premiums, or we're also factoring in the additional taxes.
That's just great. And so that's just one fun conversation. The second fun conversation was, which was, should I take this pension, which I have available to me at about $2,400 a month? Should I take that and really, in their case, bank the net money, or should I take a lump sum, which again would be transferred directly into their IRA as a non-taxable distribution at that point, and then obviously be able to maintain that capital? And this is a big decision, and there are a lot of emotions behind it, and there's also a lot of other factors. I always like to think factor number one is, do I need that cash flow? And does that cash flow emotionally put me in a position where I feel more safe in terms of my income? Everybody's in a different place. And with Jack and Diane, I think what's interesting is they really can say to themselves, hey, with a pension, and at least, and this is my mind, the way I look at it, a pension is like a lake, okay? And all the participants are fish swimming inside that lake.
Right.
Hopefully you're in a healthy lake and the fish can swim, right? So, when you decide to leave the lake, you get pulled out of you get hooked, etc. The pension begins to send you an income stream. You're exchanging that lump sum of capital, that maybe, if you want to think about it, that aquarium of water that you're swimming in, you're giving that back to the pension plan in exchange for an income flow, which will usually happen for your life. And if you're smart and don't want to sleep outside on the porch forever if you're married, your spouse's also life in some percentage, either 100% or less. Versus taking the lump sum and having the ability to retain that capital, because we know that at death of, if you're single, at your death, or if you're taking a joint survivor option at your spouse's passing, assuming you predecease them, what occurs is that money is gone. The pension plan retains that capital. How important, and that's the question, we look at folks straight in the eye and say, how important is it to you to attempt to have the ability to pass this capital on to your children, grandchildren, whoever, churches, charities, whoever it might be? That's big. But there's also a few other factors here, right, babe?
Absolutely. That's a very key factor. One of the other factors is comparing what the monthly pension amount is to the lump sum that they've offered you to determine what that payout rate is, to see if, one, it's commensurate with the private market, or two, which is essentially in addition to this, could we do the same thing with less money? Meaning, could we find a better rate of return for you privately using a private annuity versus the pension, which is also considered an annuity?
Yes, and what I was also, and that's really a good point too. And and the last one, which I think is a big factor, is health.
Right.
How healthy is that? How healthy is your spouse? How healthy are you? What do you feel is the probability of your longevity in terms of being able to get that payout commensurate with the lump sum? So, we did have an opportunity here to determine that it was an okay deal.
It was almost directly sitting at the 7%. The way that we came to that number was we took Jack's $2,400 a month, we multiplied it by 12, and then we divided it by the lump sum offer, which was $412,000, giving us 6.99%.
Yes, and 7%, again, the reason that we use that number is that's actually the current number for a single life immediate annuity payout is 7%. 7% being you're getting principal plus interest, which is why it's a life-only option. So in this particular case, they're debating.
And the great thing is they don't have to make this decision today.
Right.
They get to wait until retirement to make that decision. However, this is one of those decisions that's not reversible. So it's important as, we progress down their retirement game plan that we're continuing to have this conversation and see how things are going, because when we make this decision, this is one of those ones that we want to be sure about because we can't reverse it.
Yes, and it looks like, honey, I think it's probably time for us to take our second break of the hour. We come back, we'll have some more discussions about Social Security option.
That's right.
Do we take Social Security now? Do we take it later? Do we put it off, etc.? I'm Jeff Lapidus, the retirement coach.
I'm Erin Lapidus, the retirement coach.
We'll be right back after these messages.
Cold winds are blowing through St. Louis this February, and it's National Window Replacement Month. So that obviously means it's time for new windows and patio doors from Renewal by Anderson. Call Renewal by Anderson at 877-WINDOWS or online at rbastl.com. Mention KTRS and get 25% off all windows and patio doors. No money down, no payments, and zero interest for 2 years. Their Fibrex material is 2 times stronger than vinyl. Renewal has 9 exterior color options and the nation's best warranty. Call Renewal by Anderson at 877-WINDOWS or online at rbastl.com. Mention KTRS and get 25% off all windows and patio doors. No money down, no payments, and zero interest for 2 years. Renewal has received more J.D. Power Awards for window and patio doors than any other brand. Keep Old Man Winter at bay and call Renewal by Anderson at 877-WINDOWS or online at rbastl.com.
Looking for something different to try out? The Quarter Restaurant and Bar, located in downtown Belleville, was voted #1 in the Metro East for Best New Restaurant in 2021. Known for our New Orleans-inspired dishes with food for all taste buds, you're sure to find something for the whole group. We have a variety of beers on tap and huge hurricanes for that extra boost. Come enjoy a bit of New Orleans for your next dining experience. Come visit the Quarter Restaurant and Bar, located at 126 East Main Street in downtown Belleville, Illinois. For operating hours and menu, go to quarterrestaurant.com.
Don't miss the boats. It's the only boat show in St. Louis this year. The St. Charles Boat Show. Thursday, March 3rd through Sunday, March 6th. With recreational boats, boating accessories, and big winter savings on all brands of new 2022 personal watercraft, tritoons, runabouts, high-performance boats, luxury yachts, and more. Register for a free $1,000 gas giveaway at the show. Get more info at stcharlesboatshow.com. This is the only one. The Lake of the Ozarks Marine Dealer St. Charles Boat Show, March 3rd through 6th.
This is Jeff Lapidus, the retirement coach. Wouldn't it be great to have a game plan, a real strategy, so that no matter what was going on in the stock market, the economy, or the world, that you could be confident about your retirement? Wouldn't that be great? If you're within 5 years of retirement, call me today at 314-863-0008. That's 314-863-0008. Or send me an email, jeff@jblfinancial.com, to arrange your free coaching session. Let's get started on your retirement game plan today.
Let's talk about smart choices for your money. It's Straight Talk and Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Erin Lapidus.
Well, it's 9:49 here on the Big 550 KTRS, Talk Radio St. Louis. I'm Jeff Lapidus, the retirement coach.
I'm Erin Lapidus, the retirement coach.
And Eric, our producer, is willing, waiting, and wanting to answer your questions at 314-931-5877 or the Erin Mand text line, 84126. I guess the text line has been kind of quiet. We've been yapping this morning.
Well, we do have a text question that has come in. Would you like to get to that first, or should we go back to the Social Security question with our rock stars, Jack and Diane?
Yeah, let's finish up on that.
Sure.
And just as a very quick summary, Jack and Diane are in their mid-60s, actually
early 60s.
Early 60s. They're both actively at work, making great incomes. They've accumulated a couple $1 million of assets. We've based on our analysis with them, we've determined that they're rock stars. So now we're going through a variety of other issues. You know, do we pay off that mortgage, and how do we do it effectively? And we've talked a little bit about that so far this morning. Should Jack take that lump sum? that he's offered through his employer, or take the monthly income. And we've talked a little bit about that. And again, all of these are very specific to that individual and their situation. The last one is Social Security, and this is kind of an interesting one because we know that Jack's just a couple of years away from his normal retirement age, and we know Diane's much further off. And so his question was, everybody says I should wait till 70. Should I wait till 70? Aaron knows what my answer is. I don't think so.
Well, it would be great if everyone could wait till 70 to take their to take their Social Security benefit. However, for most individuals in retirement, utilizing the fixed income of a Social Security benefit really helps them alleviate the pressure from their retirement plan assets.
Not only that, but only 85% of their Social Security benefits have to be subject to federal income tax, so it's more tax efficient.
Right. It is.
The primary reason we believe that folks consider putting off their Social Security benefits is if you're married.
Right.
If you're married, you want to create a greater income stream while you and your spouse are alive, because at death, do you get that age 70 Social Security benefit?
Unfortunately, you get your spouse's full retirement age benefit if you are the surviving spouse and you've elected the survivor benefit. Or if your spouse happened to elect earlier, which is why in some cases where we have couples wait to take a Social Security benefit in order to maximize income when one of the spouses passes away, because regardless of whom passes away, the higher income earning spouse or the lower income earning spouse, one Social Security benefit is going to be gone. So the more we can replace with the larger benefit, usually the more comfortable both spouses are about their retirement plan. So waiting until it absolutely depends on your individual situation. Also, many people wait to take their Social Security benefit because although we're seeing people retiring earlier, we also see people that work past 66 years old, which is about the average normal retirement age benefit at this moment, 66 in several months.
Yes. And, for those people, there's another interesting question, which is, do I take my Social Security benefits now while I'm working? Now, if we were to kind of put this on to Jack and Diane, I would probably suggest to them the answer is yes.
Because they have a debt obligation to pay. That's
right. And if they're getting $24,000, let's say they're getting $20,000 or so a year net, they're going to work for 3 more years. Guess what? They can thereby liquidate their mortgage obligation, which would be kind of cool because we know they're dedicated savers. They can still put money into their 401ks if they felt like it was necessary. But with some other clients that we have, if they don't have debt obligations, a lot of them are lopsided, I would say, when it comes to asset mix. Very small amounts of non-retirement assets, tax-free assets, large amounts of retirement plans. And they maybe don't have that vault of cash to do that. And we know that having cash gives you a lot of opportunities, not only for spending, but also maybe creating a side fund so you can get out a little earlier, right? And have income flow, which is tax-free because you're just taking money out of your savings to maybe supplement or even basically replace that income during those years. So this is fun,
Lots of options. Also, a lot of these decisions will also depend upon the timing of Jack and Diane's retirement. Does Diane continue to work even though now she sees Jack not having to get up every day and go to work?
And I think what's kind of fun here is that, at least for us, I would tell you, is that, we have clients of various sizes. We have some that are smaller than Jack and Diane, many of them, but we also have those that are larger. The algebra is always the same. Do I have enough cash flow to do things that I want to do? How do I deal with debt obligations? When do I take Social Security? All these are similar things that happen because everybody's facing these same choices. What the fun is that we've got a playbook, at least in my mind. We've got a playbook. It's called the Internal Revenue Code. It's easy to read, if you're an accountant, of course, but it's a war game. And minimizing taxes is something that, frankly, is your obligation, and Uncle Sam wants you to do. At the same time, it makes you feel good. And what's neat is that having this roadmap that we've assisted them in creating also gives them, I think, more latitude to change their minds, to make new decisions. Because as we know, life changes. I mean, things change all the time, whether it's employment situations or health, etc. But this is not a scary thing. This is joyful. And when you're in that situation, which frankly, people that come to see us, they know that they're able to do that. They want some confirmation. They want a roadmap. And there's nothing more fun for us than helping people create that roadmap and monitoring it with them. And, you know, we haven't talked a lick about what we do with the money.
Right.
Because it really isn't, because the truth is, you know, and I've said this for, probably I haven't said in the last year or so, but I did for at least the first 10 to 15. You know, this process is all about math and science. The science is the game plan. The math, or the art part, is the investing side. And the truth is that the investing side very easily follows the math once you really have the math problem solved.
Well, we have to know where you're going in order to figure out how to get you there.
Absolutely. And there's lots of financial vehicles and ways to getting there and lots of combinations of things. But at the end of the day, having that game plan, it's just like going on a trip. You know, if you're going from here to there, if it's a long trip, you have to stay overnight somewhere or you're flying somewhere, you plan for it, right? You make sure that you know when the plane's taking off, you show to the airport on time, etc. You know, you bring your mask, hopefully not for too much longer.
Indeed.
And
you bring your special passport to get to Europe, since that's a new thing.
Yeah, you make sure you got enough gas to get in between, between stops when you're on the road, etc. And maybe you even picked out hotels that you're going to stay in, restaurants you may be visiting, sites that you're seeing. The more that you plan, the cool part is that it then gives you the flexibility to, frankly, enjoy the ride.
Well,
That's what retirement's all about, right?
I agree. I think we should get to our texter. They've been patiently waiting for 15 minutes.
Fabulouski. Let's go, because I know that we're almost ready to wrap up this hour in a few minutes.
That's right. This is a quick question. What is the increase in Medicare Part B premiums? Is this something to be concerned about? So, in general, the Medicare Part B premium, so the base amount that you pay if you are married, filing jointly, earning less than $182,000 a year, is $170.10 per month. That's up from $135 a month last year. So that is an increase. I wouldn't say that it's necessarily something to be concerned about, because if we look over the course of time, although we sometimes see large premium increases in certain years, over the course of a 10-year period, we're not talking about significant premium increases. However, what we were discussing during our last segment was the Medicare Part B premium increase because of your income tax bracket or your earnings. So from the first $182,000, we bump up to $238 a month, which is a $68 increase per month if you bump above $182,000 married filing jointly. So that's the very first bracket, which is $800 a year, and it applies to both spouses. So that means that's $1,600 a year in excess Medicare premiums for you if you happen to be a higher income earner. But it looks like it's time for us to take our break for the top of the hour.
That's right. I'm Jeff Lapidus, the retirement coach.
I'm Aaron Lapidus, the retirement coach.
We're getting ready for our second hour on Straight Talk on Retirement here on the Big 550 KTRS. Don't you dare leave. We've got a lot of fun things to do, including answering your calls at 931-5877 or your texts at 84126. We'll be right back after the news.
The talk of St. Louis for 25 years. KTRS AM, FM 1061, K291CW St. Louis.
From ABC News, I'm Brian Clark. As tensions in Eastern Europe appear close to boiling into open conflict, the president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, was at the Munich Security Conference, and speaking through a translator, he said someone is lying.
Ukraine is longing for peace. Europe is longing for peace. The world is saying it doesn't want any war, while Russia is claiming she doesn't want to intervene.
Russia-controlled rebel areas in Ukraine have begun to evacuate civilians and mobilize troops. More possible signs of an invasion, says ABC's Aaron Katersky.
Women and children boarded Russia-bound buses in Donetsk, the de facto capital of the Russian-controlled separatists in eastern Ukraine. We're taking what's needed, this woman said. We don't know when we'll return. There's been a spike in violence in the region over the last 2 days, and the U.S. believes Russia could use it as a pretext for an invasion. U.S. officials said 40 to 50% of the Russian forces massed along the border with Ukraine are now in attack position. Aaron Katersky, ABC News, Lviv.
Vice President Kamala Harris in Munich said a Russian invasion would lead to sanctions that would bring unprecedented economic costs. ABC News has learned disgraced modeling agent and Jeffrey Epstein associate Jean-Luc Brunel died by suicide in his prison cell Saturday night in Paris. Lawyers for Brunel told ABC News he died by suicide. Prosecutors would not confirm that. In December of 2020, he was charged with rape of minors over the age of 15 and sexual harassment, a crime in France. In Ottawa, more truck horns. Police are in tactical gear today. All this heard on CTV. Some protesters still refusing to leave the Canadian capital after weeks of protests against COVID-19 mandates. And former President Trump's denied wrongdoing after the National Archives said White House materials recovered from his club in South Florida contained classified information. You're listening to ABC News.
What's done more to improve overall health and wellness? Modern medicine or personal hygiene? Actually, it's both. But considering that bathing went mainstream in the 1800s and brushing your teeth in the 1900s, isn't it time for something new, like cleaning your nose? After all, your nose is the body's air filter for trapping dirt and germs, the first line of defense against allergens, bacteria, and viruses from getting into your lungs. But how do you clean your nose? With Navage. Navage isn't medicine, it's more like plumbing. Navage uses powered suction to pull saline in one nostril to the very back of the nose where germs can get trapped and multiply, and then out the other nostril, flushing out mucus and microbes so you can breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and stay healthier. Join over 2 million others and find out for yourself how refreshing and easy to use Navage is. At Navage.com, Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, Bed Bath, and Target. Navage. Clean nose, healthy life.
The debate over masks in classrooms is intensifying in parts of the western U.S. Some areas are dropping those requirements. Others are keeping them in place.
In California, school masks are still mandatory. In Chino, east of L.A., a heated meeting as a school board voted to follow the state mandate in classrooms. Angry parents and students spoke out.
We're done with this nonsense.
I may be small and young, but I will not stop fighting for what is right for me.
But in Washington state, where masks will soon go away in classrooms, this mom in Spokane worries it could be too soon if they end up just having to come back later if a new variant emerges.
Having to go back would cause them more emotional distress.
Alex Stone, ABC News.
The U.S. lifted its ban on avocado imports from Mexico.
The U.S. Embassy announced it's restarting the avocado inspection program in Michoacan, Mexico, and that avocado exports to the U.S. have resumed. Mexico is the largest avocado producer in the world. Inspections were halted last week after one of the U.S. inspectors was threatened. The Mexican government is investigating. Emwin, ABC News, Washington.
The Winter Olympics conclude on Sunday in Beijing, and U.S. athletes are appealing to the International Olympic Committee to have figure skating medals in the team event awarded before the games end. The U.S. won silver. There was no medal ceremony because of the uncertain status of some members from winners Russia. This is ABC News.
God, I'm so stressed. It's a brand new year and our business is busier than ever.
Ooma.
What is that? Meditation?
I'm recommending the Ooma cloud phone system with auto attendant and more than 35 features.
Ooma?
Yep. Switching to Ooma is a cinch. Starts at $19.95 per month per user, plus taxes and fees.
Ooma.
Now you're feeling it. Visit Ooma.com. That's OOMA.com to learn more. Ooma. Smart communications for the smarter business.
Brian Clark, ABC News.
Now, back to Straight Talk on Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Well, welcome back to Straight Talk on Retirement, our second hour. This beautiful Saturday in wild, wonderful the Lou. I'm Jeff Lapidus, the retirement coach.
I'm Aaron Lapidus, the retirement coach.
And our producer, Eric, says he's willing, waiting, and wanting to answer your calls at 931-5877 or 84126 from the Aaron woman, I guess I should say, text line.
Well, great news. People are sending questions on all different mediums. I just received an email question.
Fabo.
With the dramatic drop in the market so far this year, should we consider rebalancing now or maybe move to a more conservative approach? Why are you laughing? Well, you know what? The first thing that I would say is, although this has been an uncomfortable drop, I would not the speed was dramatic, but the size, a 10 to 15% correction, I would say is not so dramatic. It just feels that way because since 2020, we've only seen just an incredible jump in the market.
Yeah, I think this is also a difficult question for us to answer because the person or persons that may have texted this, they may have not already previously rebalanced their portfolios prior to the end of last year.
Right.
Or at the end of last year.
Mm-hmm.
They've seen some significant gains. Unfortunately, they may be overexposed based on their risk tolerance to the stock side.
Sure.
And it may be that, guess what, the markets have actually rebalanced you.
Right. The market did the rebalancing because, over the past 2 years, you may have become outsized in your equity side of the portfolio because it's grown significantly faster than the fixed income portion of your portfolio. And now the market has helped you by drawing down and knocking off probably anywhere, depending upon your risk tolerance, anywhere from 9 to 15%.
Right, depending on where your
mix
at.
is.
Yeah, whether you're overexposed in international, we see a lot of that. Maybe overexposed in technology, et cetera. So I would suggest that the best answer to this is get with your advisor.
Right, and for our clients, we've talked about this often. We mechanically rebalance our accounts twice a year at the end of June and the end of December. So although rebalancing does help get you back into a risk, your desired risk tolerance, it doesn't protect 100% against risk of loss. So if you've already rebalanced, you might be in a position to take advantage of the fact that eventually we'll see a rise in the market again, and you're already well positioned for it.
Yeah, so the answer is maybe.
Right.
But talk to your advisor. And frankly, I'm hopeful that you've heard from your advisor.
Of course.
We're fortunate in that we get to do, we think, 52 touches a year because all of our clients are our listeners.
Absolutely.
So, and most of them continue to listen to the show, and we obviously appreciate that. At the same time, we've been actively, for the last 2 months, talking to our clients, and we're working our way through to review what happened last year, where are they at in terms of their goals for this year, and you ought to be doing that. I mean, at the end of the day, if you're working with someone who's truly an advisor, if you're not getting advice, they're not doing their job, and the question is why.
Right, and we're always attempting to reach out to our clients individually at least 4 times a year to chat about their goals, their portfolio, and their retirement plans individually. But then, just like you said, Dad, we're here every Saturday to chat, and we have an open door policy with our clients, which is any calls, emails, additional coaching sessions that they'd like to have are all included in our advisory fee.
Right, because we're on the payroll.
That's right.
That's the way that we've looked at things. So, babe, I know we've got a couple of other important things we'd like to get to, but what's more important is what's on our listeners' minds.
That's always important. So they should reach out to us by phone, 931-5877 if you'd like to hear your voice on the radio, or 84126 from the text line.
Exactly. Did you have a text or call we wanted to go to at this moment, or should we go into our next subject?
Let's go into our next segment.
That sounds great. This is an interesting one, and honey, this is something that you were involved in. I wasn't this week. We were having we received a call from a client.
That's right.
Changing their situation. One of our clients who recently was divorced, she had to change her situation, and she called Aaron to say, hey, what should I do?
Well, right. The divorce part wasn't part of this conversation, so I'm sure she's appreciative that you announced that. Abby gave me a call this week, and she let me know that last year she had made a maximum contribution to her 401k plan. She actually left that employer at the end of the towards the end of the year, but just recently she received a check in the mail for $7,000. She was told, right? She was told by her employer that these funds were not severance. They happened to be returned to her from her 2021 401k contributions because she's what's called a highly compensated individual. So we'll get into that definition in a second, but her main question was, can I put this money into an IRA so I'm not taxed? Because obviously her original intent was to contribute pre-tax to her 401k. They've returned that money to her, meaning it will be taxable to her. And she also happens to be starting a new job in a few weeks where she'll have access to a 401k there. So Abby, So Abby wanted to know what to do.
Yeah, I think that, and that's certainly not unusual. The situation is a little unusual because most folks don't have money returned to them from their 401k plan sponsors.
Right.
And that really gets us into, and I think it's important to kind of just fill this in real quickly about, and you did this, I found very well, babe, is what is a highly compensated individual?
So most people only consider the highly compensated individual as a business owner. You have more than 5% interest in the business. That does, no matter what your income is in that situation, you are automatically considered a highly compensated individual. However, there's a second definition, which doesn't necessarily come into play as often, which is an individual that's earning more than $130,000 a year is also considered a highly compensated individual. Now, for very large companies like the one we discussed with Jack and Diane, this doesn't necessarily become an issue, but if you work for a smaller employer that has significantly less employees, your income compared to the rest of the employees at your job could be an important factor in how much you can contribute to your 401k.
Yes, and the reason is that the highly compensated group, which could be owners and also high-income employees, are segregated, and the amount that they can put in is really driven by what the bottom two-thirds, as they say, their average percentage is. And usually, as an example, like in this case, let's say the average employees on the bottom were putting in 3%. Maybe they were only matching the employees' match, and we had some people that weren't participating. We know that Abby, in her case, she could only add 2% on top of that or put in a total of 5% of her pay. Well, guess what? She got a refund.
Right. So the question now becomes, what can Abby do with that $7,000 that was returned to her? An IRA would be a great option. That's another pre-tax vehicle, just like a 401k that's self-directed. However, in Abby's case, she's unable to make retroactive contributions to an IRA for 2021, being able to essentially recreate what she wanted her tax situation to be, because she has access to a workplace plan. So that means since she earns more than $76,000 a year, the IRS says if you have access to a workplace plan, you cannot also contribute to an IRA.
Yuck.
Right. And that's because the IRS limits your annual retirement plan contributions, both by limiting how much you can contribute to a particular vehicle, like a 401k or an IRA, but they also limit the overall contributions that you can make on an annual basis. So since she's going to have access to a new workplace plan in 2022, for those same reasons, she's going to be unable to put that money directly into an IRA account for 2022 as well.
Well, that really wasn't what she wanted to hear.
No, she was not pleased.
But no, she wasn't. But I know that you came up with a couple of creative solutions for her, right?
That's right. So since Abby is starting her new job 3 months into 2022, she was basically concerned that she's not going to be able to maximize her 401k contributions because, those have to come from payroll deduction, and she's not going to have the full year to make those contributions. So what I suggested was, although she can't directly take that $7,000 and put it into her 401k because, like we just talked about, you have to do a payroll deduction, we thought a great idea would be to maximize her contributions for the first few paychecks, the first few months, to whatever the plan allowable amount is. So some companies will allow you to contribute 95% of your income to a retirement plan. Maybe she maximizes those contributions until she sees the depletion of that $7,000. So although she didn't directly take the $7,000 and put it into her 401k, she's effectively what we like to call reverse engineering it back into a retirement plan for 2022.
Well, that's great. That certainly is something that she could do, and then obviously she could decrease her contributions over the year to hit that maximum if that's something that she needed to do. So where there's a will, the nice thing is in the playbook, generally there's a way to get to go where you want to go on these things. So
that's right.
I thought that was a terrific situation. We do see this often when folks are changing jobs, especially not at the beginning of the year. It is a little unusual that people are getting tapped out, especially in larger companies, because that upper third, a lot of cases more than $130,000 a year. It obviously wasn't in this particular case.
Right. You know what? We have Carol breaking the ice on the phone line with a question about withdrawing Social Security benefits from an ex-spouse. Good morning. Good morning, Carol.
Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate all of your information and knowledge that you have, but I am so confused. This is a new transition for me. I'm not ready for retirement. I mean, I'm 61. My ex is 3 years younger, and I guess I'm just trying to understand if I wanted to withdraw the Social Security benefits from being an ex for him. Is that something that I can withdraw at retirement for myself and still work, or is that something that you don't do? You get to withdraw it or work, not and or. Does that make sense?
It absolutely makes sense. And to answer your question, yes, you can do it, but it's important to consider a few things. First, since you're 61 now, you have a few years until you get to your full retirement age. If you claim your own Social Security benefit or you claim what's called the spousal benefit, which is true if you're married or, like in Carol's case, since she's divorced, she still has the opportunity, as long as she's was married for 10 years, to claim off of her ex-spouse's Social Security benefit. Both of those options have income limitations. So that means if you're still working and you're earning more than $17,000 a year, you're going to have to pay $1 back of your Social Security benefit for every $2 that you earn over the $17,000. So it's really important to, game plan out. Are you going to be pulling back at work and supplementing that income with the spousal benefit? Or maybe are you just going to hold off until you've reached your normal retirement age, and then you'll have the decision to elect either your own benefit or your ex-spouse's benefit, depending upon whichever is greater.
I mean, that was wonderful. And I would also say there's also one other factor here,
Sure.
And I think to answer the part of the other question, which was when you reach your normal retirement age, you are permitted to continue to work and draw your Social Security benefit without penalty. So this income limitation only, and take back as we like to call it, only happens up until your actual normal retirement age.
Okay.
Good. So you can take them both together. So you can take them both. You can keep working and take the benefit if it makes sense for you. Did you have a follow-up question?
If I marry, then I lose those benefits from him, right?
If you
I remarry.
No, actually, no. If you remarry, you get the choice of your current spouse's spousal benefit, meaning you can take a look at if your new spouse is a little bit more successful than your previous spouse, or if your previous spouse happens to have been a higher income earner, you get to make that choice. The only thing that you will lock yourself out of is if you were using the survivor benefit, which means a spouse passed away, and then you are remarried, then you lose access to the benefit. So you won't lose access to any of the spousal benefits.
I just have one bit of advice here.
What?
If you're going to get remarried, marry older, because under the new laws, what happens is that for you to begin to draw that benefit, he has to be drawing his benefit.
Right. So there are some limitations there.
That's right. They changed the law on that. So marry older
and more successful, of course.
All right. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate you. Have a great day and stay safe.
Thank you, Carol.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. That was a fun one.
That was a good one. And you know what? We have a couple of really great text questions on board here.
Well, great.
People are waking up, de-thawing from the freeze. Is there a minimum amount that you have to invest, that you have to have in order to invest with your firm, or have you manage the money? We do not have account minimums with our firm. You may hear that from other advisors, that they have a minimum amount that they're willing to work with, but we have different qualifications for the individuals that we like to work with, one of which is that you're looking for advice.
Right. The other one is that you're nice.
Right. So we feel that we're here to help everyone regardless of the size of their accounts. Everyone has a different size life, but it's all meaningful. So we're here to help anyone make sure that they're able to retire, like we talk about at the top of the show, hopefully with a less stressful retirement.
Yeah, and I would say that as financial planners, maybe this is a question that's really being asked here. We invest all of our clients' money.
Yes.
And the reason that we do that is that if we're responsible for creating and also executing that game plan, we have to have the money to be able to do that. So we're not brokers. If somebody wants to say, hey, Jeff, and I've had this happen before, it's fun, golf course, Jeff, I've got, X amount I'd like to invest with you. The answer is no.
Well, right, because
we are. That's what brokers invest people's. Brokers take parts of people's money. Planners plan all of their clients' money.
Absolutely, and that doesn't exclude that we have many a client that enjoys some fun money, and as opposed to fun money for vacations, it's fun money to play the market on their own. And we suggest that they keep a separate account that is not contingent on what we like to call the milk money, which is those assets that we need to in order to create the income that we've discussed during the game plan. We have many clients that enjoy a little day trading.
Yeah, and I would say that in general, at least from my experience, people that have more than one advisor per se don't trust their advisor. I mean, that's the reason I'm going to split this up. Well, you don't usually split up your legal fees, and you're certainly not splitting up your accounting fees. It's because you trust that person. So
just like your primary care doctor, you got one?
Yes. That's right. Unless you're like Grandma, and she likes to run a bunch of them, right?
Well, you have to have something to do in retirement sometimes. I think before we get to our next text question, because it's a bit longer, we should take our first break of the 10 o'clock hour.
Sounds fabulous. I'm Jeff Lapidus, the retirement coach.
I'm Erin Lapidus, the retirement coach.
And we'll be back to answer your live questions on the phone as well as your text questions at 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the text line. Don't touch that dial. We'll be back after these messages.
Great news from Rocket Mortgage. You could unlock more cash than you realize from your home's equity with a cash-out refinance today. In fact, in the last year, average home values have gone up nearly 20%. That means you could unlock thousands of dollars. And with Rocket Mortgage, you could unlock all that cash in less than 3 weeks. But you've got to act right now before rates go up, because nobody knows how long these low rates will last. Put your hard-earned money to work. Make your life better. Build a home office. Remodel your kitchen. Or simply save that cash for a rainy day. Today's rate on a 30-year fixed-rate mortgage is 3.25%, 3.48% APR, so you can lock in a great low monthly payment. When you're looking to unlock the cash in your home, Rocket can. Call 833-8ROCKET today or go to rocketmortgage.com to get started. That's 833-8ROCKET or go to rocketmortgage.com.
Rates current as of 12/12/21. Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender licensed in all 50 states. NMLSconsumeraccess.org number 3030. Call 800-490-1233 for disclosures and cost information.
Arch Madness. It's all about the excitement, the fans,
the history,
the big moments.
Shoots at the horn. Good!
It's all about the madness.
To make it to the tournament.
And March, it begins here. It's the 2022 State Farm MVC Men's Basketball Tournament, March 3rd to March 6th, presented by Bally Sports Midwest. Visit archmadness.com for ticket information.
Hi, this is Stuart Rosenblum, president of Stewart's American Mortgage.
Stewie!
Mortgages are the biggest investment that a person's going to make in their life, yet most people don't know anything about it. Tune in for Mortgages and More with Stewie. That's me, where we can go over all the different types of mortgage programs in simple terms. You, me,
Stewie!
You'll become an expert after the first show.
Listen to Mortgages and More with Stewie, Sunday mornings at 9 a.m. on KTRS.
This is Erin Lapidus, the retirement coach. Wouldn't it be great to have a game plan, a real strategy, so that no matter what was going on in the stock market, the economy, or the world, you could be confident about your retirement? Wouldn't that be great? If you're within 5 years of retirement, call me today at 314-863-0008. That's 314-863-0008. Or send me an email at aaron@jblfinancial.com to arrange your free coaching session. Let's get started on your retirement game plan today.
Let's talk about smart choices for your money. It's Straight Talk and Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Well, we're back here on the Big 550 KTRS Talk Radio St. Louis. We're about halfway through the second hour. Babe, before we get to our next text question, what I'd like to do, or caller, what I'd like to do is to take a couple of moments here, and talk about and I guess somebody really asked us about how much are we willing to accept to open accounts, etc. I think it's probably good to really describe what I think is our ideal client profile.
Okay.
And we really have 4 criteria. Number one is, I think the most important one is that you're nice. What I mean by being nice is if you're nice, okay? But really what we're talking about is people that are happy with who they are and what their life is.
And not only
you're
that,
happy. Mm-hmm. Go ahead, babe.
I was going to say, and I think really it's important to say why we feel this way, and it's because our goal is to work with our clients for the long term, so for the next 20, 30, 40 years potentially. So we'd like to build a happy and, like you say, joyful relationship with all of our clients, because this is what all of our clients have worked their entire lives for, to be able to enjoy their retirement.
Yes. And then the second criteria is that they really care more about other things and other people than money.
Right.
If your focus is on money, you got issues. Especially in today's market, right?
Goodness, yes.
The third criteria is that they're folks that are actually, they're seeking out professional advice. And this is the tough one. They're willing to accept it and to implement. Many folks and there aren't too many, but the folks that usually come to see us, they really fit this role. But some folks, unfortunately, they want professional advice, but they're not willing to accept it. And that's okay.
Yeah. And I would say that
that's okay.
That is absolutely okay, and I think part of this is because, as advisors, we have a responsibility on our side of the relationship, but kind of just like a personal trainer in the gym. The clients are the ones that do all of the work. They saved all of their assets. We're here to help guide them on the game plan, but they're usually the ones truly implementing it. For example, when we talked about Jack and Diane in the first hour potentially paying off their mortgage, well, they're the ones that are going to pay the mortgage off. We're just going to help determine how they do that. So, in order to implement a game plan, we really need to come to a consensus and have mutually agreed upon roles that we can both work towards.
Honey, that's great, because at the end of the day, the game plan is really written for us. It isn't written for you.
Right.
Because the fact is we then have to implement. Your job is
execute.
Give us the money. Execute, which is A, give us the money, and then B, obviously do the behaviors that are necessary to make that happen.
Right.
And the fourth one is, and most importantly, I guess, also is we work with people that are delegators. One of the things and it doesn't happen in every meeting, but in some meetings, I'm looking at folks, we're looking at their portfolios, and we can tell that they've been their own personal money managers, and they like that, and they want to do that. And I like to say to folks, we don't take toys from boys.
And you know what? There's a lot more girls out there that are enjoying their investment toys that I've noticed over time. Maybe they've been the money managers.
Yeah, I apologize for that
As you should.
misogynistic remark. Okay.
Indeed.
But at the end of the day, most of the folks that we like to work with are folks that want to delegate that money management function to us. So that they can have more time to do things that they want to do.
Absolutely.
So if you feel like you're fitting that criteria, then give us a call. It's easy to make a coaching session. Just call us at 314-863-0008, 314-863-0008, or send us an email, Aaron@jblfinancial.com, or go to our website, hit the contact us, and say, call me. Set up a coaching session. We'd love to do that with you as well. But hopefully that gave a little clarity.
We have a couple of we have two great text questions. One's a little bit longer, but we just received a quick one that I think I'd like to go to first. I'm with another broker-dealer or investment advisory firm. Would I be better off with you guys? Well, as my dad always likes to say, we're always better because we're the ones doing the comparison.
That's right. Well, that's right. And I think if you're asking yourself that question, maybe it's time to make a visit.
And
I would say that it's time to kick the tires. Obviously, you're listening to the show, and I think what's really nice for everyone that comes to visit with us, unless they're, well, really, we try. We don't insist, but we ask that folks, even those folks that refer to us, listen to our show, so they can get an idea about our bedside manner. Because, as our clients will tell you, we're just like this. You're going to have a lot of laughs, we hope, when you visit with us in the office. Because even though this is very serious, it's your life.
It's a fun part of your life. It's a joyful part of your life. It's not the scary part of your life.
And I promise that if we've done our job reasonably well, you're going to walk out smiling. So
absolutely.
I would say this particular texter, we don't know the answer. You'll be the one to make that decision.
Absolutely. And I think
I would really suggest, I would just say, you should go, maybe before you see us, you ought to go back to your advisor and say, these are expectations maybe that aren't being met at this point. And then you have to make a determination whether you feel like they can be met. If they can't, then guess what? Come over, kick the tires. We'd be very happy to visit with you.
I was going to say that we see many individuals that are already currently working with an advisor, or they've worked with an advisor in the past. And for many firms, just like ours, we offer no cost or obligation coaching sessions, so you can get to know us a little bit, see what our services are, see what other advisor services are. We often call that the advisor tour. Maybe you see more than one new advisor just to get a perspective on the different styles and the different array of services that are offered by many of the people locally.
Yes, and I think that something that you've described very well in the past, honey, is that not all advisors are the same. I mean, we're allowed to use this title because we've been licensed and registered in a certain way. But there are many folks that are really specialized in the accumulation phase, helping you grow money, et cetera, during your working years, sometimes, before that. But this distribution phase, and we're not talking about just life distributions, but also dealing with what happens if I get sick or what happens if I pass away.
Or my spouse
planning.
passes away, right?
Right, estate planning. These are highly honed skills that we have accumulated over many, many years. And Aaron and I do have, between us, over 50 years of experience in doing this. And if we throw Grandpa, who was my mentor in this, our family's got over 100
years of experience. Well, also, the other piece of this is that all of our clients are in this phase or approaching this phase of their life, meaning we have specialized to work with individuals in the distribution phase of their lives versus individuals in the accumulation phase.
Yeah, and we do the accumulation phase for the kids, right?
That's right. We consider it a family affair, and since mom and dad or grandpa and grandpa are already we're already on their payroll, we feel like they're footing the bill for any questions or thoughts or ideas that their family might have. That doesn't mean that the kids or grandkids need to open accounts with us to ask us about 401k options. What should I do about this debt? We're here to help
that's
the entire.
That's fun for us.
We're
we
here
love
to help
that.
the
That's
entire family because we feel like, the strength, not only the strength of your family's wealth is an important factor, especially for the baby boomer generation in the longevity of their retirement.
And it's getting longer, which is great. So, babe, let's hit a text question, and then I would like to, if we have time, get to fun on the family farm.
We have 2 text questions, but I'm going to go to the longer one first because they've been patiently waiting. So bear with me because I'm going to read it. Here we go.
It's a good one. Okay,
it's a good one. Great show this morning. Thank you very much. My question relates to some of the comments in terms of portfolio pressures given the market's downturn and volatility. Can you discuss a little bit more about the impacts? That is, you may be a rock star today, but if you're considering retirement with the market's downturns we are experiencing now. So my question is, can you talk a little bit more in the near-term retirement impacts of the market around the the actual retirement date, as it would seem this period of time really would impact the quality of life of retirees? So short-term downturns in terms of retirement planning today.
I think that's an interesting question, and I would certainly say that we're going to fall back on the math, very simply. The market's going up and down. It constantly does. We love the upside, believe me. That's our favorite part. But we know there is a downside. If your game plan is secure, if it's one where you're making distributions at the 4% level as needed, we're not suggesting our clients at this point reduce their distributions.
Nope.
Nope. We don't do that because we know that when they fill the bucket back up, we'll remind them that that's the reason that we're doing it. We fill the bucket up further because then if we can reduce our withdrawal rates, that'll give them a little more certainty. But I would tell you that at least this week, I've talked to 3 or 4 of our clients that are, I like to call them preemies.
Mm-hmm.
They're not retired. They're still actively at work. They're looking at retiring within the next 12 months. We've been working with them for several years with their outside accounts, and also in many cases giving them coaching a little bit on their 401k plans, other retirement plans. And so, this particular change or drop in the market shouldn't necessarily stop anyone, I would think, from making that decision. But again, it's all based on your numbers.
And also, I think the overarching important thing to remember is, and it's hard to do this while you're watching your account value decrease, but for individuals that are deciding to retire in the short term, over the next several years, you've lived through some of the largest market drawdowns in history outside of the Great Depression. I mean, in the 80s, the savings and loan crisis, the dot-com bubble, the housing market crisis, the COVID crisis. So over the course of 20, 30 years, you built your wealth by having faith in the market. We'll continue to do that in retirement. So, yes, we're experiencing some discomfort right now. It's certainly not comfortable for any of us. But we know that over a long period of time, if we look at any 20-year period in the market, we usually see that it's up and to the right with positive returns.
Very, very well put. So I hope that might permit our texter to
have some
hold
confidence.
The court,
right.
Have some confidence in the future. We don't think that the best days of this U.S. economy are behind us, and therefore things will be fun in the future. And you know what happens? Forget about this stuff. The downturns occur, and we live through them, and we work through them, and Russia doesn't take over all of Eastern Europe. And,
you're just dying for some text. You're just dying for some on-air political conversation, aren't you?
No, not at all. I mean, I'm not talking about what our government's reaction is. Is it going to be strong? Is it going to be weak? Is it going to be whatever?
Right.
I'm just saying is that there's always going to be something else after this. I mean, it will be. Just like, are we going to have to wear masks forever? Answer is no.
Please, I hope
People
not.
may decide to, God willing, etc. Well, that's good.
You know what? We have Mark on the line that has a question. And Mark, your question's about the risk of currency devaluation.
Great. Yes, I always enjoy your program.
Thank you.
As a retired investor, what does that mean, risk of a currency devaluation? I mean, I think of all these things that the U.S. government is doing with the money, where we have big obligations with Social Security, Medicare, everything. What does it mean to an investor, retired investor?
Mark, I think that's that's certainly an interesting question, and I would have to suggest to you that what's important here is that we put things in perspective. The world is floating on an incredibly large mattress of manufactured money. The Federal Reserve has increased the money supply to support the banks and obviously support lending. All the central banks have followed suit. So I would suggest to you that all currency is, if you want to use the word, devaluing in exactly the same method. Where I think most investors don't think, and obviously you're somebody that's doing your own thing, which we appreciate, is that the real issue about currency devaluation or valuation really happens with international stocks.
Mm-hmm.
If the dollar weakens against those stocks, what happens is the value of those currencies increase, and therefore what happens is that international stocks go up.
That
U.S.
hasn't
stocks
been the
don't
case.
go up at the same rate, and that hasn't been the case in the next couple of years. And so from a portfolio point of view, and I don't know if you're really asking this question, Aaron and I feel that the U.S. is still the safest, the most democratic, the most freest, least amount of government intervention economy on the planet, and therefore it's the safest place to be. So devaluation of the U.S. currency is not as much of an issue. We're not going to be Germany. You're not going to have people walking around with wheelbarrows full of money and having what's happened which basically ended up being, the onset of the First World War. So
I think that's a good point. It really goes back to what you said before, which is that currency is tracked against other currencies. It doesn't live in a vacuum. So because all of this, the majority of the central banks across the world were involved in some quantitative easing, some money printing in order to support the economies over the last several years, we're all doing the same thing in short order, which is reversing some of that, taking some of the liquidity out of the market because economies across the world are doing very well, relative not only for themselves, but relative to one another. So usually these things, just like taxes, have an ebb and flow. And right now we're attempting to experience the ebb as opposed to the flow.
Well, and honey, that's really, I would say, the key and the core reason that we're seeing the the markets being as unsettled as they are right now.
Yes.
The Federal Reserve has to extract money. They have to do it. We're hoping that they do it in an orderly and a timely basis. If they're able to do so, then the markets will be calm and we'll have continued growth. The problem that we see, and again, look, I'm not getting on my economist pedestal here.
Because we aren't.
Because we aren't. That's not what our job is. We just know that interest rate rises tend to reduce consumption. That's what the purpose of it is. They also reduce investment. They make lending more difficult. They take borrowers out of the market, which tends to reduce economic activity. That's something that the Fed and, frankly, all the other central banks want to try to, as much as they can, keep away from. And how can we do this in an orderly manner where these low interest rates that we've had, we can get back to normal? And, something that I would suggest to everybody that's listening, and again, I'm not prognosticating, I'm just kind of talking here, is that I haven't gotten anything in the mail the banks are saying we're going to give you a new toaster if you bring us more money.
Oh, goodness.
And we know that banks, their core is taking in savings and checking, leveraging that by lending it to businesses. Well, when they need money, they give you incentives. We know what the incentive is now for putting money in the bank. It's almost zero.
Right. The reflection of your savings interest is a reflection of how much the bank needs your particular assets to lend out in order for them to earn a little something on it. But right now you can think about, 15 years ago, your money wasn't in the bank. They lent it to someone else to make a return so they could give you a little interest and they could make money. Well, right now your money's literally sitting in their bank because they don't need your money to lend more money. They have so much money.
Yeah, and I would say that prognosticating here, the first 1% rate of interest increase by the Fed is probably not going to relate to a 1% increase in interest that they're paying you for money sitting in your bank. It's not going to, because there's too much slack in the system. So it's like anything else. We've got to siphon off the slack before we get banks actually needing and wanting money so they can lend it to other folks. So that was a little bit off course here, but I think it gets kind of to the core, which is these things work themselves out.
Right.
We're hopeful that they work themselves out in a reasonably orderly manner. But while they're doing it,
can be uncomfortable.
It's called rock the boat, baby.
Well, I think we should take our second break of the hour.
Very good.
And return with the last few text questions that we have on deck.
Sounds fabulous. I'm Jeff Lapidus, the retirement coach.
I'm Aaron Lapidus, the retirement coach.
We'll be right back to answer your questions at 931-5877 or your text questions at 84126 from the KTRS text line.
M-I-Z-Z-O-U. Speaking of you, let's talk about your house for a second. Look, if it's not in tip-top shape, everything underneath that roof could be at risk of damage. So make sure everything's good. You see your gutter pulling away from the house, maybe your mortar's coming out of your tuck pointing, all could be taken care of with Allen Roofing and Siding. Online at aroofing.net. A-L-L-E-N. That doesn't work as well.
Do you like antiques?
Sure do, sonny boy. I married one.
I mean antiques and collectibles like those you'd find at the Belleville Flea Market. It's the largest antique flea market in the St. Louis area, with over 600 vendors each day in the air-conditioned exposition center. And there are more collectibles and bargains outside. It's Saturday and Sunday, starting at 9 a.m. at the Belle Claire Fairgrounds in Belleville, Illinois, Route 13 and 159. For more info, call 618-233-0052 or bcfairgrounds.net. Make it an antique and collectible weekend at the Belleville Flea Market.
Hi, this is Terry Hall. If you're thinking about buying or selling, you need somebody who will make you feel safe, who has knowledge, who has experience. I have been involved in more than 4,000 real estate transactions, from $20,000 homes to $5 million homes. Call me. You'll be happy, you'll be safe, and you'll get the most for your home. 314-220-0524. That's 220-0524.
This is Jeff Lapidus, the retirement coach. Wouldn't it be great to have a game plan, a real strategy, so that no matter what was going on in the stock market, the economy, or the world, that you could be confident about your retirement? Wouldn't that be great? If you're within 5 years of retirement, call me today at 314-863-0008. That's 314-863-0008. Or send me an email, jeff@jblfinancial.com, to arrange your free coaching session. Let's get started on your retirement game plan today.
Now, back to Straight Talk on Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Well, we're back here on the Big 550 KTRS. It's 10:50. We've got about 9 minutes left for our show. Let's get to those text questions, babe.
All right. The first one, this is great. How do we tactfully fire our financial advisor if we decide to go with you? Or any other advisor, this would be a reasonable question.
Any other advisor? What the heck?
Well, you know, there are other people out there. This wouldn't be an answer just particular to if you decided to work with us.
Well, I would suggest to you that the most tactful way is to give the talk, which is, we've appreciated your work, but
we've decided to go a different direction. It's not you. It's not you. It's me.
Most folks don't contact their financial advisor. What happens is
they get an electronic notice.
Right. The stuff has been transferred, and that doesn't happen very often with us. But what we usually do is we don't call the folks because they've already made their decision. We just say thank you for your time, and best luck for you in the future. Right?
Absolutely. Well, because we always enjoy our time with clients for as long as they'd like to work with us, and that's something that we haven't mentioned, which is, you know, there are no fees to join us and there are no fees to leave. You're not signing a contract. We, as my dad likes to say, we like volunteers, not hostages. So as long as we're both happy with the relationship, we consider that we'd be continuing to work together.
You came up with that, volunteers or hostages. I like that, though.
Oh, I think, well, you know what, I'm attributing it to you, so you're welcome.
Okay. You're welcome. Okay, let's go to question number 2, babe.
Okay, this is another excellent text question. They all are excellent. I don't know why I keep pointing that out, but I just love them. If I would have you guys for my financial planners, I work for the post office. Love the postal employees. Not just because they deliver the mail, but they're some of the nicest people. Friendly, great stuff. We have many former postal employees with us.
Love that. We know all about you.
Would you want me to take my TSP money out and have you invest it, or would I leave it in my TSP and let it grow there? Well, if you are currently working, and this is true not just of TSP plans, but any type of retirement plan, if you're still making contribution, but you're looking to, and you're still working, but you're looking to get that game plan in order, rarely do we make the recommendation that you transfer those assets or do what's called an in-service distribution if you're eligible to do that from your retirement plan that you're actively contributing to an IRA with our firm, and that's because you're in the lowest cost environment that you can be in at the moment. We are developing our relationship together, and when it's time, we'll roll those funds over at your retirement and not before then, unless there's a specific reason or need that we would discuss to do that.
As I like to say, we're cheap date.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, the bottom line is that we can wait, as you're saying, honey, but when someone does retire, it certainly makes sense to move their funds over to their investment advisor so that they can, A, get access to all the tools in the world, and B, the nice thing with TSP is that they're using low-cost index funds for these various accounts, and we certainly have all those tools and other tools available to us, so you want to pay us, so you have to move the money.
And also, the TSPs, 401ks, other retirement plan vehicles supported through employers are accumulation vehicles. They're not really meant for distribution. So having the right type of account set up once you've retired and it's time to transition from accumulating to distributing is important as well, because for individuals that work with us, there's no cost for distributions. You're paying taxes, but you're not paying a fee to receive any of your assets. You're not restricted to certain times during the year to receive those assets. We're able to rebalance and make changes to your account when you give us discretion when we see fit versus being constrained by any plan rules, which in many cases you'll have with your employer-based plans.
I only have one thing to add.
What's that?
We love folks from the post office.
They're great, I know.
They're just great. I mean, we have a bunch of them, and they're just really fun people, and we've been very fortunate that many of them have introduced us to their cohorts, friends, as well as employees, their friends at work, and we just love the work that they do. And then they're like the they're like policemen, they're like firemen, etc.
Friendliest people we know.
They're the friendliest people we know. And so the answer is you're very welcome to call us. So thank you very much for even considering that, right?
Absolutely. And, I have a text question that I'm going to let you tap dance around for the last couple minutes of the show. I definitely want to read it, but I'm not sure how much you'll be able to answer, which is, in general, what types of stocks do you typically invest for your clients? Dividend paying, growth, aristocrats, etc.
Okay, I'm not gonna take 3 minutes on this.
Fair.
But I will tell you that we do not invest in individual securities. We believe in managed money. So what we like to do is we like to watch the managers. We do build portfolios, but we also use managed portfolios. So we like to use a combination of approaches which we think makes sense. I would tell you that in general, our philosophy has been, and unless Aaron decides to change it, is going to continue to be, is that we found that over the last 10 years, growth of stocks have outpaced dividend rates. And so therefore, we're not building portfolios to generate income through dividend-paying stocks. We use them because we think they make sense. But at the same time, in our rebalancing process, our goal, and we've been fortunate in being able to achieve this, is we're skimming growth and basically reallocating those money. So we're skimming the profits, and those profits usually happen with growth. And so the cool part is that in most cases, these portfolios are rebalancing our IRA accounts. So doing that rebalancing, there's no tax consequences.
Right.
So I would say we don't really want to depend on companies changing their dividend payout rates. Right. We know that in many cases they stop them during pandemics and other things.
Right, and that can be dramatic if you're relying on that income.
Yes. So dividend-paying stocks are a tool that we use in portfolio construction, but it certainly isn't the driver. I hope that answers that question.
That was a fairly decent tap dance. With the
Very
last
good.
minute of the show, I thought I would go to one of our mailbag questions.
Fabo.
Are all coaching sessions in person, or do you offer phone and or Zoom meetings? Well, I've tried to have the same philosophy in life as my dad, which is to find the silver lining or the lemonade when the lemons come. And with the pandemic, we've been able to really expand our service options to all of our clients and potential clients, offering telephone meetings, Zoom meetings. We're always available by email for one-off questions, as I like to say. So we run the gamut. Whatever you're comfortable with is what we are comfortable with.
I think that's good, babe. And the thing is that we have morphed a little bit. We do most of our meetings are in person, but a lot of them are Zoom. And sometimes, frankly, most of our client review sessions are either by telephone or by Zoom, and that's really up to the client. But it's easy to do. Just give us a call, 314-863-0008, 314-863-0008.
The opinions
voiced in this show are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, and financial advisor or tax advisor prior to investing. Securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advice offered through Private Advisor Group, a registered investment advisor. Private Advisor Group and JBL Financial Services, Inc. are separate entities from LPL Financial.
Be listening next week at 9 for more straight talk on retirement with your retirement coaches, Jeff and Aaron Lapidus, on the Big 550 KTRS.